Calories are one of the most familiar ideas in health. They're printed on food labels. They're tracked in apps. They're treated as the primary unit of energy. And because they're familiar, they're trusted. Most people have been taught that energy is simple. Eat calories, get energy. But calories are a poor proxy for how the body actually produces energy. Not because calories are meaningless, but because they measure the wrong thing. A calorie is a unit of heat. Specifically, it measures how much heat is released when food is burned in a laboratory. That measurement comes from a device called a bomb calorimeter. Food is placed inside, it's ignited, and the heat released is measured. That tells us how much potential energy is stored in the food. But the human body does not work like a bomb calorimeter. In a laboratory, food is burned. In the body, food is processed. Those are not the same thing. The body does not convert food into energy through combustion. It converts food into energy through a sequence of regulated biological steps. Calories do not measure regulation. They measure heat. Before food can become usable energy, it must move through multiple systems. It must be mechanically broken down in digestion, chemically processed by enzymes, absorbed through the intestinal wall, transported through the bloodstream, interpreted by hormonal signals, taken up by cells, and finally processed by mitochondria. Only at the end of that entire process does usable energy appear in the form of ATP. Calories ignore every step in that chain. They assume the chain works. That assumption is the source of most confusion around energy. Two people can eat the same number of calories and have completely different outcomes. One feels stable, alert, and focused. The other feels sluggish, foggy, or hungry again shortly after eating. Calories predict neither outcome. Because the difference isn't intake. The difference is how the system handles fuel. Calories treat the body like a furnace. Add fuel, generate heat, produce energy. But the body isn't a furnace. It's a regulated system. Hormones decide whether fuel is stored or released. Signals decide whether energy is conserved or spent. Cells decide whether fuel is oxidized or withheld. Calories don't measure any of those decisions. For example, insulin is a storage signal. When insulin is elevated, fuel is directed toward storage. Access to stored fuel is reduced. Energy availability can decrease even when intake is high. Calories don't capture this. From a calorie perspective, food went in. From a metabolic perspective, access went down. This is why eating more doesn't reliably increase energy. More calories do not fix insulin resistance. Metabolic inflexibility, impaired mitochondrial function, electrolyte imbalance, disrupted circadian rhythms. They simply add more input to a system that may already be constrained. This is also why people experience energy crashes after eating. Calories were consumed, but energy did not appear. Instead, blood sugar spiked. Insulin rose sharply, fuel was stored, access was restricted. ATP production became unstable. Calories cannot explain this sequence. Another limitation of calories is that they are static. They assume the body's energy needs are constant. But metabolism is dynamic. Energy production changes hour to hour based on sleep quality, stress exposure, circadian timing, recent physical activity, electrolyte balance, fuel availability. Calories flatten this complexity into a single number. This is why calorie-based thinking struggles to explain real-world experience. It can't explain why energy varies across the day, why sleep affects appetite and fatigue, why stress suppresses energy, why fasting can improve clarity, or why eating enough still fails. Calories were never designed to answer those questions. When people say, "I should have energy, I ate enough," they're assuming intake guarantees output. But energy is not guaranteed. It's permitted. Permitted by stable hormonal signals. Permitted by accessible fuel. Permitted by mitochondria that can actually produce ATP. When metabolic systems are stable, energy becomes predictable. You don't feel wired. You don't feel flat. You don't crash between meals. Energy is calm and reliable. When metabolic systems are unstable, energy becomes erratic. Calories don't fix that instability. This is the inversion most people miss. A stable system can produce energy with modest intake. An unstable system struggles even with high intake. Calories predict neither stability nor instability. Calories are not useless. They can help estimate intake at a population level. They can provide rough boundaries. But they are a blunt tool. They don't explain fatigue. They don't explain crashes. They don't explain why discipline fails. Real energy is not about maximizing input. It's about aligning systems so energy production becomes reliable. When those systems are aligned, calories fade into the background, and energy becomes something you can depend on.